George needed divine rescue, and that's what he got. And that's why we love this movie so much. Of course, this is a Hollywood movie, but what's so cool about this scene for me is that this scene is an analogy. It's a picture. It's a snapshot, if you will, of the gospel message. Because, my friends, regardless of the situation of our life, whether good or bad, religious or non-religious, rich or poor, happy or sad, the truest picture of our life before we were rescued is that you and I were drowning in our sin and shame, and you and I needed heaven's intervention because we could not rescue ourselves. And you and I were going down for the last time, and there was no way out. And you and I desperately needed divine rescue because we were at the end of our rope, facing death with no rescue plan in sight. And just like Clarence jumped in to save George, that's exactly what God did for us when He sent Jesus. You see, 2,000 years ago, Jesus, picture this, did a swan dive from heaven, and He entered into the murky, dark waters of this world and of our lives. And just as we were going down for the last time, He reached out in love and grace and mercy, and He rescued us. And like George, we might argue at first that we don't need to be rescued. But then, when we're real honest about ourselves, and when we consider the desperate condition of our lives, and when we contemplate where we're all headed sooner or later, when we contemplate facing death without a rescue plan in mind, we begin to see things more clearly. Believe me, as a pastor, when people get toward the end of their life, they're real interested in the rescue plan for their life. You see, when we think about it, we begin to understand a very deep truth, and here it is. The greatest heartfelt need that all of us have is, hey, we all need to be rescued. But the cost of rescue is beyond our means. Only Jesus can rescue. Now, this is the simple but the good news of the gospel. The psalmist, I love this, the psalmist who wrote that the cost of rescue is beyond our means, penned these words approximately 1,000 years before Jesus came to earth. And he is saying to us in this psalm, hey, you better have a rescue plan in mind. And by the way, here's the rescue plan that I'm going with. In verse 15, he says, but me, if you want my opinion, I'm going with God's rescue plan. And here's what's going to happen to me when I face death. God's going to snatch me from the clutch of death. God is going to rescue me because I'm going with God's rescue plan. God's rescue plan is mentioned all throughout the Bible over and over again. And His rescue plan comes in the form of His Son in the New Testament, Jesus. And there's a verse in Galatians chapter 1 that puts it very clearly. Listen to this. It says, Jesus gave His life for our sins, just as God our Father planned, in order to rescue us from this evil world in which we live. This verse, along with many others, makes the claim that only Jesus can rescue us. Now, these 5 words don't go over very well into today's society, because when we say that only Jesus can rescue us, people say to us, wow, why would you say that? That only Jesus can rescue? That is so narrow. That's way too conservative. That's just downright intolerant. So, why does Christianity make the claim that only Jesus can rescue? Why is it that we believe that only He can save us? My friends, I want you to listen close to me. The central message of the Bible, the central message of Christianity, the central message of Christmas is the message of God's rescue plan to save and redeem and rescue mankind from our sins and put us in right standing with God. And he came up with this plan because we could not rescue ourselves. He came up with this plan because there was no other viable rescue plan. He came up with this plan because he wanted to spend eternity with us forever. Take another look at this verse in the Psalms. The cost of rescue is beyond our means. What does that mean? The cost of rescue is beyond our means. I think it means that we don't have enough money or means by which to purchase or buy our rescue. We can't be famous enough to deserve a rescue plan. We can't be good enough to gain a rescue plan. And we can't help ourselves enough to rescue ourselves. You see, there are no earthly means whatsoever that can rescue us, which is bad news for us, isn't it? But the good news is that there is a means by which we can be rescued. Jesus is the means by which we are rescued. Jesus is the means by which we are saved. And there is no other means, and there is no other viable rescue plan. And here's why, okay? Here's why. The cost to rescue us was a price that we could never pay. Even if we added all the money, the riches, and the wealth of the world together, we could never, ever pay it. It wouldn't be enough. Even if we could add all the goodness and kindness and benevolence and the compassion of this whole world together, it still wouldn't be enough to pay for the cost of our rescue. You see, there was a cost, a high cost, involved in God's rescue plan, and the price tag was priceless. In fact, God's rescue plan cost him everything because it cost him the life of his son. But remember what we just read earlier? We all need to be rescued, but the cost of our rescue is beyond our means. Which means somebody had to pay the cost. Somebody had to pay the cost. Otherwise, there would be no rescue available. Church, we need to be very clear about this. You see, our rescue didn't just happen. Our rescued lives aren't some stroke of good luck. Our rescued lives aren't because of some merit that we have. And God's rescue plan certainly wasn't free from cost. It cost him everything. My friends, hear me. That's what makes the message of Christianity unique. Our message, church, is like no other message in the world. And that's what makes the Christmas story miraculous and life-changing, because the Christmas story is a story about rescue, the rescue of all mankind. You see, think about it. It cost something for Jesus to leave the splendor of heaven and come to earth and be born in a lowly manger. It cost something for Jesus to take on flesh so that he could become like us in every way. It cost something for Jesus to follow his Father's plan, even though it meant that he would be abused, spat on, forsaken, and rejected. It cost something for Jesus to pray in the Garden of Gethsemane and sweat drops of blood because his heart was breaking for us. It cost something for Jesus to go through a mock trial and be completely innocent but be found guilty anyway. It cost something for Jesus to be beaten within an inch of his life. It cost something for Jesus to carry his cross to Calvary because he was carrying the weight of your sin and mine. And it cost something, get this, for the sinless, perfect Son of God to be nailed to the cross and resist the temptation to call a legion of angels to set him free. It cost something for Jesus to allow his very life's blood to be poured out. It cost something for Jesus to be broken